They said they couldn't hear me.
To those that know me, you're about to see a whole other side of me.
To those that don't know me, I'm normally a nice person, but people mistake my kindness for weakness, when it's actually my strength. When it's many in the hearing community aren't aware of the difference in sign systems used by Black Americans and that of white Americans, or that there were any differences to begin with.
Deaf Boy wants you to know he lives in two different cultures and two different worlds. Deaf Boy wants you to know he feels fractured. Deaf Boy wants you to know he doesn't hear. He doesn't hear.
The diner bell chime as Curtis hobbled inside. He doesn't hear the sound his footsteps make against the floor. The diner wasn't a place to experience sound.
Hi, I'm Daisy. What can I get for you? Oh, I'm actually taking sign language classes at school. Do you mind if I try to understand you? If I get something wrong, just spell it, okay?
Curtis made out most of what she said using lip reading and was not overly pleased. Curtis used BASL, a language which only Black people really knew.
Allow me to translate. All right?
It wasn't all right.
Despite centuries of shared suffering, the deaf community is ostracizing its Black members. The 2020 Registry for Interpreters for the Deaf reports that 85% of interpreters are white, meaning that Black deaf people are still forced to rely on white people as their access to the hearing world.
Since historically Black deaf people weren't allowed to learn ASL, we created BASL, Black American Sign Language. But societal oppression and a preference for white signs makes it clear. Black deaf people are first Black, then deaf.
The suffocation of BASL doesn't only impact the Black deaf community. It impacts anyone who would connect with them.
But how are we meant to speak out against oppression when our oppressors have become our voice? So, with the poetry, Deaf Boy by Jordan Howard, The Painter by John Ashbury, and Silently Outnumbered by Joy Alon.
The prose, Black, Deaf, and Extremely Online by Allison Waller, The Hidden Treasure of Black Signs by Tanisha Kenny, and Cornbread by Joaquin Brown.
And the drama, Can ASL Be Involved in Racism by Jeremy Lee Stone. It's time to end the cycle of Black on white dependency and place power back into our hands.
Sitting between the sea and the buildings, he expected his subject to rush up the sand, seizing the brush, and plaster its portrait onto the canvas. But there was never any paint on the canvas until the people living in the buildings put him to work.
Sign languages in Black deaf schools was different from the mainstream ASL used in white deaf schools. The reason? Segregation. Since Black and white deaf students weren't allowed to interact with each other, Black signs were looked down on as the less proper version of ASL.
Look at me. Without my hearing aids, I look like you, right? You would never know there was something wrong with me. But that's the thing. There's nothing wrong with me. He says, I am not less than you. Deaf Boy thinks you're afraid of him. Deaf Boy says, don't be scared of me. Don't be scared to try and communicate. 2 eggs sunny side up and a white toast for him, please. And a black coffee? No, I don't understand. You said, okay, I think. Daisy. Daisy. Listen, I'm taking sign language classes. I just wanted to try and practice with you.
So you could learn some of my sign language, right?
Your sign language?
Black ASL users tend to sign closer to the use more two-handed signs and sign closer to the forehead rather than the lower half of the body, and emote to a greater degree. I have the right to remain silent because anything I say or do will be used against you. No, that wasn't gang signs. I was just saying that I'm sick of this bullshit.
Select for a portrait something less angry and large, something more subject to a painter's moods. He dipped his brush in the sea, murmuring a heartfelt prayer. My soul, when I finish this next portrait, let it be you who wrecks the canvas. Let it be you open
a book, and the color is white. White shoes, white book, white car, and the same sign for a white person? No, that must be signed as white. Now black. Black shoes, black book, black car, and a different sign for black person. No, stays black. They couldn't
understand the problem. Just make sure that you use normal sign language, okay?
What did you say? Normal
yes,
sign language?
ASL.
Curtis did some stiff ASL signs for Daisy.
Eggs. Bacon.
Curtis didn't sign bacon. He signed sausage, but even that was hard for him. He was struggling to remember exactly what it was. Next, he signed cornbread.
Toast. French toast. No. Can't you just use normal sign language? I don't understand what you're saying.
These variations can prove problematic for interpreters signing in front of mixed crowds. The speed and stylistic variations of the ASL can cause interpreters to miscommunicate a message. I realize the hand shapes are the same. Black, ugly, white, beautiful.
Deaf Boy wants you to know that sometimes he can read lips clearly and sometimes he can't. Deaf Boy wants you to stop pointing at him and saying, "Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?" Black Deaf Boy wants you to know that sometimes people only see the black and don't see the deaf. Black Deaf Boy wants you to stop calling him hearing impaired. He doesn't want you to call him animal. He doesn't want you to call him dumb.
Imagine a painter crucified by his subject, too exhausted even to lift the brush. All indications of a subject begin to fade away, leaving the canvas perfectly white. Cornbread. Hey, would you mind teaching me more? BASL?
A warm feeling filled Curtis. You want to learn more?
Why not?
All prior frustrations melted away, replaced by a small smile. Sure. After breakfast. Am I trying to divide the language between ASL and BASL? No. I just carried the history. Younger Black Deaf generations are growing more outspoken about BASL and proudly claiming it as part of their own. Finally feeling that this is mine. I own something.